Howdy all of you delicious people, I'm here today to review the first season of Baby Reindeer. I get that people probably will have strong feelings about this show, but I feel the main reason for me wanting to do this show is because I feel at some point someone has had a unhealthy relationship with another person at some point. And could be a family member, could be a friend, could be just someone they knew once. And also, like, there is just sometimes where I would just kind of be reading a Facebook feed, and someone is either talking about how they had gotten too many messages from a guy, and uh, one time I would go on and find that somebody's looking for legal advice because one of their friends is being stalked, or also there'd just be a girl that was a little concerned while she was walking home at night. So, to me, like, with this show being about a stalker as well as also uh, a guy being taken advantage of by more than one person within the show, yeah, like, I thought that I kind of needed to talk about it. So, the very beginning of this show that I feel in my mind should be talked about is that Donnie is a bartender at a bar, and he goes on and here's the part of dissecting this whole thing is really just because that this is about somebody's true life story, and that's what is just kind of like, ugh, like I'm really talking about someone's life here and lives of other people. But so Donnie is this bartender at this bar, and he decides to be nice to a girl that is sad. So he gives her a drink and thinks nothing of it. But that nothing of it ends up turning into something where this girl goes to this guy's shift all the time and talks to him the whole time there. So much so that like the owners are kind of pressing Donnie, like, well, hey, how about you just finally go on a date with this girl? Because like the two of you are just consistently flirting and just consistently like at one another. So why don't you guys just go on a date? And Donnie, by the situation, is just kind of peer pressured into saying okay. And so Donnie goes out on this date with this girl, and then eventually goes on to find out more things about her, more than just everything that she's ever said at the bar, that she is a lawyer, and finds out on the interwebs and the internets that this girl is a professional stalker, that she stalks policemen, and that this girl has been doing this for a long time. So Donnie has the biggest red flag just right in his face. And what does Donnie do? Donnie decides, like, well, I'm just gonna friend this girl on Facebook. Dude, you should move away. You should change your name legally. You should go into witness protection program. Away from this person. But no. Donnie decides, I'm going to friend her on Facebook. But then eventually, there is the backstory of Donnie. And you, at the the early stages of this episode, realize that Martha is dangerous, yes. But then also, you find out that Donnie is attracted to danger, I feel. Yeah, like that is perspectives and what, but that's just how I feel. And so the two of these characters, both Donnie and Martha, it's like two tornadoes in one area, and just collateral damage is just happening everywhere. But it's mostly affecting Donnie's whole entire life. Job, stand up career, friends, him living somewhere, parents, everything. Everything, everything. And so then the only thing that really just Donnie has left at this point is just Martha. That's just how bad things are getting. And so the chess moves that are just going throughout this entire show, and as well as just like Donnie, even still, when it seems that he should be in a happy relationship, it's like that's not good enough because the danger isn't there. Yeah, so he's even still just fantasizing about Martha to just go on and try to uh like to still have that danger in his mind, so then he can like make love to Terry. Yeah, so that's where things just kind of just build in this show. And so with that, I got hooked onto this show, I will admit that. And yeah, like it's a car crash that you can't look away from once you start to get into the show. And with kind of what they do in the show, like yeah, it's just like just the story, just this, just wow. Um, and really, I just felt so bad for Donnie's character, but then again, just like you are the danger, you are the danger. So with that said, I thought that this show was great. It was one that just kind of stuck in my brain from all the other stuff that I've just kind of seen recently. Uh, because I'd watched a lot of shows like all crammed in at one time, and it was like Shoguns and Hacks and like all these different things that I hope at some point I will eventually probably review on this channel, but who knows? Because there's a lot of other new movies and shows that eventually I also have to cover at some point. So uh, I have to get to those things, but the more and more that I not get to, yeah. So we'll figure that out when we come to it. So, but comparisons to this show to other things, like immediately what comes to mind is the show You, but I think that is kind of different perspectives. Like for You, like the perspective is taken from the guy who stalks people, and this show is more about the perspective of the victim of it all. And also, this kind of reminds me of What About Bob, like the Bill Murray movie where like the whole baby steps thing, and then the Bill Murray goes into the Richard Dreyfuss's life and becomes so much of it that eventually it drives Richard Dreyfuss's character crazy. Yeah, that whole kind of playing out of things. Yeah, so uh, I feel other than that, like I feel like I've kind of covered everything. This show is available on Netflix. If you haven't checked it out, I I would recommend it, but then again, also with just kind of the dark things that are going on. Because let me kind of end with this. So Donnie has a backstory about why he's probably attracted to danger, and like it stems from him having a relationship with this writer. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, like, the writer goes and gets uh, let's figure out a way to the writer goes and gets Donnie high and then does things to him while he is so doped up. And then Donnie is just kind of waked up, uh, seemingly in the aftermath of this. And Donnie then is to, like, instead of pulling away from it, he continues even to go further and further to meet up with this writer because, yeah, like, he just can't stop. So, like, yeah, that is a very dark part about this show as well. But anyways, let's go into full on spoilers because I kind of said most of what happens in this show, anyways. So with that said, if I haven't said already, I thought this was a great show, but a lot of people have a drastically different opinion. Uh, but it was like, to me, the reason why I say it's great is because it got me hooked. Like, I wanted it. Like, I was like, man, someone's gonna die at the end of this. That's just why I was just I gotta watch the whole season. I can't just watch one episode and be fine. No. So, with that said, let's get into the spoilers of this. Spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil this show. So, I immediately know that I'm going to make mistakes while talking about a whole entire season of a show. Or really, there's going to be certain rebuttal times of just being like, oh yeah, and this character comes in, and like, I have to kind of give you the whole backstory of that whole entire character. So, if you haven't seen the show yet, definitely check it out because I'm sure there's some detail somewhere that I forgot. Because it's been a while since watching this entire season, as well as also cramming in a number of other things, watching in between talking about this now. So, with that said, at the very beginning of this show, we have Donnie, and he goes to the police station, and he's following a report about Martha, and he's like, well, yeah, this girl's stalking me. And then the police looks at him. It's like, well, how long has this been occurring? It's like, well, 6 months now. And the police officer is just like, well, why didn't you say anything sooner? And Donnie's like, yeah. And that's just kind of where the story kicks off. Donnie's a bartender at a bar, kind of already said this, meets this sad girl, gives her a drink. Uh, One drink turns into, like, okay, this girl is flirting with Donnie, consistently talking to him. Every shift that he shows up, she's there and endlessly talks to him. So Donnie starts to find out things about Martha, that she's a lawyer, that she has all these clients that it seems like she's name dropping and this and that. That she's trying to say that she's just a well accomplished lawyer and this and that. So Donnie continues to talk to this girl, and again, um, the bartender owners are to eventually see this conversation continue to happen. It's like, well, hey, how about you go on and how about you date this girl? And so Donnie's like, well, like, he's kind of peer pressured into it, and he's also looking at Martha, and Martha's like, huh? And so Donnie is just like, well, I guess. So, because Donnie has already been in a relationship with a girl named Keely, and it didn't work out, but uh, they're still the best of friends. They even kind of live in a place together, but just friends. And so Donnie, like, I think is like, I don't think he's really dating anybody, and uh, but eventually he goes on to, like, make a whole, like, dating profile. And so yeah, so eventually in the story, but we'll get there. So Donnie goes on a date with Martha, and it seems that at the point of this date, here's where Martha snaps and just shouts loudly. And that freaks out everybody in the room, as well as Donnie just going like I'm with this girl. So, but Donnie is trying to play it off. He's trying to be nice, but then in his head, he's like, okay, this is the time where, like, I think this is it. So, but then again, Donnie finds out where this girl lives and finds out about like what her home is like, and makes a noise, and then Martha finds out uh, that Donnie was watching her. So, but he did that to just be like, well, why is this girl just so infatuated with me? Like, why I gotta figure out something about this girl more than just the stuff that she said. So here's where we get the Facebook thing, and then Donnie researches this girl, finds out she's a professional soccer, and friends her on Facebook. What a mistake! Because again, this guy eventually gets 80 emails a day from Martha, endless calls, texts, voicemails, this, that, everything, and it's to the point where Donnie is thinking like, well, maybe I should get a new phone. Like, what should I do about this? So Donnie goes on to eventually uh like realize that this girl's a professional stalker, and so he kind of forgets about her, kind of puts her in like the rear view mirror kind of thing, and is to eventually go on and put together this dating profile. Come to find out, the whole dating profile is a big, massive lie. Because of course it is. Because again, this guy is attracted to the danger of it all. Of like, well, hey, like I'm gonna lie about this whole entire profile and see if this person figures it out, or eventually be caught in a lie, and like I can just walk away at any moment, right? Because danger. So, but Donnie eventually goes on uh to go through person to person to person, and things just aren't working out. And like, no, I don't like this guy, I don't like this girl, I don't like this, whatever. So at some point, uh Donnie does find Terry, transgender, uh, whatever title that you want to kind of just throw out there. I'm just saying Terry's a person. So Donnie meets Terry, and like things are really working out. Like this girl is touching Donnie, and he's like, like I'm kind of liking where this is going. So Donnie finds out that like Terry is a therapist, and is like, okay, cool, all right. Do you want to dissect me? You want to you want to try to figure me out, kind of thing. So, so the two of them are hitting things off metaphorically, and eventually here is where Martha comes in, and Martha eventually ruins all that because Martha felt like she told uh, Donnie that she loved him because Donnie did his stand up session and things weren't going quite as well. And then all of a sudden, it seems that Martha started laughing, or started to just start to talk to Donnie, and then he just has this whole set where like he's just talking to Martha and people are laughing, and Donnie's like, "Oh, well, I have something to go with here. I have something." And so Donnie's on this high and thinking like, "Oh my god, like this is probably the best set I've had in X number of days." And Martha is just like, "Well, yeah, I kind of helped you out there." And so Martha is singing this song, and then so while she's singing it, Donnie like is to just kind of be forced to just kind of sing along, and then there's a part where uh it's to say like I love you, and Donnie's like, "Oh, I don't want to say that. No, like I don't feel like I don't feel like I have that kind of feeling for this girl." So Martha realizes like, "Oh my god, yeah, like man, this was a mistake." But then eventually Martha just presses her uh her Donnie against this wall and just touches him inappropriately. Uh and Donnie could have stopped her, could have gone on to no longer see her anymore, whatever. And like he didn't stop her; he just let her do what she was doing. And we eventually figure out later on why that is. And so, with Martha being on Donnie's Facebook and chiming in on every single thing, whenever Donnie is in a picture with a woman on Facebook, Martha will say like how this woman isn't right for Donnie. My foot got caught, uh, or that she's this or that she's that, some kind of slander, something or whatever. And so after Donnie is to try to forget that Martha even exists, at one point Martha is to find Donnie as Martha is just like, "Okay, like where have you gone to, baby reindeer? Like where have you been? Like are you hiding from me? Are you this? Are you that?" And we would consistently have to read all of these texts, and I'm just like, "Okay, great reading." I'm horrible at that. So Martha comes to find Terry and both Donnie at this restaurant, and here's where we escalate things. So Martha sees Terry, Donnie, and so Martha, of course, has to talk to Donnie, and as uh, as they're to talk, Martha calls Donnie Donnie, and then Terry's like, "Why is she calling you that?" And eventually this leads to then Martha looking at Terry. It's like, "Oh, like why are you with this girl?" And like this cat fight is happening, and Terry gets knocked down, and so Donnie is just like, "Oh my god, like Martha is affecting my relationship with this girl Terry that I really am truly into." And that is where the line is drawn, where Donnie is just finally like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to the police." Like the possible love of my life, Terry, is like in just on the ground. Like what? I need to do something. So Donnie goes to the police, files a report, but it seems like the cops can't really do much about it. So eventually this escalates. Like Donnie is following a restraining order, doing all these kind of things, but like Martha is always somewhere in the shadows, somewhere, just looming over Donnie. She is exactly 50 feet away from him and still figuring out some way to ruin Donnie's life. So, but Donnie goes on to talk with Terry, and Terry's like, well, hey, like, why did this girl call you Donnie? And Donnie's like, yeah, I should probably tell her the truth. But like, what Donnie does tell Terry, it's like, well, hey, yeah, this girl's been following me, this girl's been stalking me, and like, yeah, like, this just happened. Like, I'm sorry. So, but so Donnie, after just kind of disappearing, after Terry's like, well, hey, like, why did she call you Donnie? And he doesn't really have an answer, and he just disappears. Sometime later, Donnie goes back to Terry at her place and confesses everything. It's like, well, yeah, like, in my dating profile, I lied about everything. And like, I lied about it because I wasn't sure about this, that, and so I'm paraphrasing here heavily. But Donnie ends up confessing everything to Terry, thinking that like she'll be won over by everything that he says, and that she'll just open arms, just take him back. And Terry's like, no, like, you lied to me, like, and like, get out of my place. No. So Donnie is crushed because he had lost the love of his life. But still, uh, Donnie eventually is doing these stand-up comedy bits, and eventually it gets to the point where all of a sudden in one of these stand-up comedy shows, uh, Terry arrives, and so Donnie's like, "Oh, okay, all right, well, like it's nice that she's here." But then Terry's like, "Well, like I just want to show my friends the mistake that of who I used to date." Yeah, yeah, all right. So Donnie goes and does his stand up, and the whole entire time, Martha is heckling the crap out of him, ruining his entire set, even showing a video of him uh, doing a bad joke at one point uh, during, I think, the set at one point. And so this is tanking everything. This is choking everything down that Donnie could do whatsoever. And so all of a sudden that has just like Terry just looking at Donnie is just like, oh my god, like, ugh, like I feel so bad for him. So Terry goes and meets up with Donnie backstage, and it's like who is this woman? Like, why is she doing this to you? And Donnie's like, well, yeah, like she's just my stalker. She's following me everywhere. She's ruining my life. And Terry's like, oh, okay, well, just, all right, well, maybe I can talk to her. Maybe I can convince her to, like, because I'm a therapist, right? And so I'm like, okay, all right. Well. So we have Donnie and Terry seemingly back together because of this happening. And so Donnie is with Terry, and there's a whole thing that eventually you have to get into, which of course is Donnie being with this writer character. I believe his name is Darian or Darian. Anyways, so I'll get to that eventually. So Donnie is with Terry, and like Donnie should be happy. He is, but like whenever it comes into the bedroom part of things, what is the non? He's coming up short. Like he's not performing in the bedroom, and that creates friction between the two people. And so it seems that the only way that Donnie can get this mojo working, God, this is not working well, is to imagine him being with Martha, because again, the danger of it all. And so every time Donnie is with Terry, he's thinking Martha. And it seems Terry is satisfied, and Donnie is just happy because he can satisfy his woman's or his his Terry. So Donnie still has to deal with Martha, but let's deal with the backstory of Donnie. So Donnie goes on and he does stand up at this bar. And this bar seems to be the most unusual place to do stand up because it seems to be a sports bar. And so this is past Donnie. So at some point, Donnie goes to this just kind of party, and he meets this writer there, and the writer is like, "Well, hey, yeah, I used to work on the show," and and like and Donnie was just then talking to someone else and crapping on it. So the two of them start talking. One thing leads to another, and the writer guy is promising Donnie. It's like, well, hey, uh, how about you write for me? Like, how about we kind of like maybe I can get you a job and so many promises. And so Donnie, it seems, when he's part of this, like he feels great about it, and like he feels like all these promises are all gonna come true. So Donnie goes on and he spends so much time with this writer guy that at some point they start to introduce like drugs into the mix and getting high. So they experiment, and that leads to like Donnie getting just so high that at one point, like he's just laying there, just like, "Ah." And that's of course when uh, the writer steps in and uh, possibly either starts blowing Donnie, or uh, really does some stuff below the pants. Let's just say. So Donnie will wake up and then realize that something has happened to his body, but like slowly but surely he just thinks nothing of it. But then at some point we just get to a point where Donnie is just like, no, 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 like I can't do this anymore. Like this is wrong. So Donnie gets high at one point and he tries to leave from the writer's place. And he's like, no, this is wrong. Like, I'm going to try to get out of here. But he's so high that he has a problem getting out of the place. And that leaves the writer to still just go on and touch, touch, touch Donnie, let's say. And still, that just leaves Donnie just like, well, okay, I'll just keep going back to him. Like, I know that this is wrong, but just. So that eventually wrecks what was Donnie's relationship with Keeley, but again, they become the best of friends, and they still live in a place together. And also, Martha wrecks that. So, at a point, and we'll get back to a portion of this. So, and we'll transition to that too. So Martha, I think this is where the part where Martha says to Donnie that she loves him and finds out where he lives and like starts off a conversation with Keely and Keely's mother. I think her name is, I want to say it's Jill, but I'm not sure because I didn't really go through a cast list. I probably could to double check on things because I probably announced like 50 different names wrong. Uh, oh, the mother's name is Liz. Uh, so and the writer's name, yeah, is I believe Darian. So I don't think it really matters because I kind of rattle off this stuff anyways. So again, back with Keely's place. So Martha says that like she's a friend of Donnie's, and Jill and Keely are just like, oh, like Donnie has a girlfriend. All right. So at this point, Donnie is looking at Martha. It's like, man, you're in my place. Why are you doing that? Like, I really don't want this girl here. But then also, uh, like Martha is talking to these girls for so long that he's trying to come up with an excuse for her to possibly like stay the night. It's like, well, yeah, we have this couch available, and Donnie's like, no, no, and Keely and Jill are looking at him like, what? So Martha comes in to Martha is to eventually say, it's like, well, hey, can I use the bathroom? And while she ends up using the bathroom, she finds out the room that Donnie's in and gives him a picture. So Donnie eventually finds that picture. It's like, man, I'm freaking being violated here. Like she's going into my place, she's meeting with my friends. So once Donnie figures out a way to get rid of Martha, he then turns to Jill and turns to Keely and tells them the truth about this girl. And they're mortified. They're like, oh my god, well, like, we let her into our house. Like, you should have told us. And Donnie was like, dude, she was right there. Like, how could I say anything? And so Keely and Jill are looking at Donnie. It's like, well, like, you know what? I don't know if like you can live here anymore just because of this girl. And Donnie's like, what? So Donnie ends up getting kind of technically kicked out of that house. And also, we have this just yellow jacket that Donnie used to have. And then when he gets back to this place, he ends up regaining and re earning some of the stuff that he had back. And he's like, oh my god, this yellow jacket. Oh, which was great. So Donnie's like, okay, now I'm kicked out of that place. Well, well, I guess it's lucky that I still am a bartender and I still have this stand-up comedy because now I'm gonna just find this place for rent and I'll live there. Yeah, about that job, about that stand-up comedy. So Martha goes in to this bar, and at this point, Donnie has a restraining order on Martha, and she's consistently coming into the bar anyways to just start stuff, start crap, start. And so Martha just goes, and she's almost like to the point where like she's almost like gonna throw glasses at Donnie, or go on to like throw blows or something fisticuffies. And I am just like, oh my god, this person should just consistently be put in jail. Oh my god, like she is gonna probably accidentally like really hurt somebody. Uh, Besides already almost hurting Terry. So Donnie is at his bar consistently having to be forced to have Martha consistently kicked out every single day. And then Martha is just like, well, hey, uh, I'm gonna start paying for my beer now, so I have to be at this establishment. So like Martha figures out like the law way of staying into this bar, but they try to kick her out consistently. So the owners are looking at Donnie and they're just like, man, like the way things are escalating, like we're being held liable for that. Like they didn't care about Donnie whatsoever until it affected their bar, and then they stepped in and like, well, hey man, like I don't know if we could have you work here anymore because like we could get sued, we could get we could, and so Donnie's like, wow, really? So Donnie ends up going into stand-up comedy, and like he's doing these sets, and like it feels like his stand-up career is starting to go somewhere. If it felt like in the flashbacks like he was learning from this writer guy and things were starting to move to where it seems that people instead of watching the sports channel was hearing Donnie do this stand-up comedy bit. So Donnie goes on to do this stand-up comedy where there's possibly maybe a tournament or something going on. So Martha ends up showing her face at these things and heckling the crap at Donnie again, or at any point just kind of ruining his stand-up career to where no one would justify booking him. So Donnie eventually has nowhere to live, and then he's pushed back to live with his parents. And his parents are getting phone calls all the time about Donnie being in the hospital, or Martha is trying to figure out a way to mess with uh, Donnie's father's job, or uh, or trying to figure out a way to consistently uh, like be on the phone with uh, Donnie's dad, and Donnie's dad is screaming, and like eventually this just kind of wears Donnie's parents down, and you can just see it in their face, or you can see the effects of all this, to where like the father has like no voice, and so Donnie is just like, God, like what can I do at this point? Like Donnie is speaking with investigators, and or no, he speaks with the cop that he spoke to about like, well, hey, like I filed this report, but like nothing is happening with this. And so the cop is like, well, what's really the problem with this girl? And Donnie is like, well, just Google this girl, like this is the girl that is stalking me. And the police officer is just like, okay. So after finding out who this girl actually is, he then sends Donnie to this investigator. So while Donnie is trying to talk to these investigators and these cops, trying to get this woman in jail, because this has escalated so much so, where like how many texts are enough, how many like emails are enough, like so Donnie speaks to these officers, and like some of the guys are like, well, hey, like if you can just kind of find some dirt on her, or like kind of find some text where your life may be in jeopardy. So now Donnie is going on and making like Martha like his entire life. He's going through every single one of these voicemails. He's going through every single uh, text, email he's ever gotten from her, and dissecting all of this to figure out what could be the one thing that could lead Martha to go to jail. Because eventually Martha has kind of said all kinds of range of stuff. So Donnie gets to like a desperation point where he hopes that he can kind of catch Martha in something about something that she has said and use it against her for the police. And so Donnie just feels happy because he's like, yeah, like this girl finally said this, and like I feel I can turn her in. And then all of a sudden, we find out that Martha has recorded everything that Donnie has ever said and used every bit of that against him. And then Donnie's just like, yeah, wow, all right. So the further and further Donnie is still trying to do stand up, but everything around him is just falling apart. So he finally gets through this tournament, and when he goes into it, he is just like, dude, I got freaking nothing. At a point, like he just breaks down and he just tells his whole entire story. And he tells this whole story to all of these people, and he sees some of his friends in the audience. He's like, yeah, guys, this happened to me. And everybody is just in a stun shock. What he goes into everything that has happened with Martha, the writer guy, everything in between, that he's kind of like losing everything. And somehow somebody decided to record that and made a video on it online somewhere. And that just somehow had gotten Donnie to all of a sudden become popular. And he's all of a sudden really getting gigs and things are going well for him. And also eventually, like, after he used to realize that this video had gone viral, he had to realize that he then had to like tell his parents what all he said in this video, because this video was going wild. So Donnie had to talk to his parents about all this, and like they were very emotional about it, and like there was a moment between Donnie and his father that was really just kind of very close, and it's just like, wow, okay, all right, this is great. So so just things seemed to be going well for Donnie at this point, and I want to try to figure out a way to just kind of end this also, because memory of actual show, but uh, Donnie, after like the guy is getting gigs and he seems to be happier. Martha eventually goes to jail for stalking him, and like Donnie is there at the sentencing, and he then uh, turns around and eventually things are going so well for him that he gets back to live with Jill and Keeley, and Keeley's like, well, yeah, um, like, you know what, after hearing what all happened to you in that story, like, you know what, like, how about you come back, like, how about you live with us again? And like Donnie gets his own coat, and also like Keeley like felt bad for Donnie, because at one point she comes to his place and finds that he has this huge wall of just everything connected to Martha, because he's trying to figure out this case that he's gone like crazy just figuring it out. And that's when Keely's like, you know what, how about you just kind of like live with us? Like, we'll take care of you. And it's like, yeah, you're really going through something. So yeah, so by the very tail end of this, and uh and Donnie had figured out how to put Martha away for stalking and whichever. Eventually, he's just at this place, and he's still like listening to Martha's voicemails every day. Eventually, he had to figure out why Martha consistently called him baby reindeer, and come to find out there's a whole reason for that. And then Donnie is just like, oh, okay, and like that's how we just kind of end this season of like, okay, that's just how it ends. All right, okay. Um, but so with that all said, I think that's where I'm probably going to try and wrap this up, because at some point I just kind of was like, well, like I'm just kind of forgetting how this all wraps up in the season. So with that said, I'm gonna probably wrap this one up uh, before I went on to just say anything more about the show that I can't quite clearly remember. Cause yeah, I just yesterday watched The Gorge, and also I've watched like 3 seasons of Hacks, and a whole entire season of Shogun, and all these other things while also watching this. So yeah, just trying to figure out every piece of this from what I could remember. But I'm sure let me know in the comments below the number of things that I probably forgot, because this is an entire guy's life story, and I summed it up in 50 some odd minutes. So, so yeah. So with that said, I am going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. I'm sure there might be maybe a rebuttal after this clip is over, because I might just like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about this, because that didn't happen. But hey, if this wraps up here, then goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.